2016-ish. So this is the first third leg of the vision. The focus of the first 5 years is around making sure the business environment is best in class, making sure that the laws are in place, making sure that we fix the house basically internally. So I can give you a lot of evidence where that happened. Recently, the Ministry of Commerce have rewritten the corporate or the company law. The Capital Market Authority have launched its complete reforms program, whether it's opening up, whether changing the clearing to T+2 from T+0, and so many other evidences that will support this transformation. Through the National Transformation Program, through the launch of the 12 visionary programs, it's all about focus. It's all about KPIs, all about governance, all about transparency. So you also as investors will have an opportunity to look at the performance of the government through our ADAA Center. And by the way, next door they have an exhibition of all the performance indicators Saudi Arabia are developing. So everybody is welcome to go and visit them and see these KPIs live, how the government is measuring itself and how the public and investors would see this improvement and progress of the vision programs.
Fantastic, thank you. And what's your perception? I mean, obviously Britain is changing. We're going to embrace Brexit and leave the European Union and have a different trade policy. And also changing our economic policy in certain ways with a different industrial policy and things like that. How do you see that as complementary to the sorts of changes you're making?
Absolutely. I think the inflection point that both Peter Mandelson and I talked about is on both sides. We're already sort of have left the runway and have launched into the air the implementation phase of Vision 2030, and I think the UK is getting ready to a different view to cast its eyes in a lot broader and in a more balanced way. And I would, sort of like to think that Saudi Arabia can be a pivotal linkage to a new partnership sphere that perhaps is not positioned in the past as is the Commonwealth, but is forward-looking, looking at the demographics of the Middle East, Africa, the Islamic world. These are three spheres of national and demographic and human relationships that Saudi Arabia is central. And this has been a point that Ken has heard repeatedly from His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, that Saudi Arabia is the center of gravity. If you look at the strongest economic cluster in that part of the world is the GCC, and we're more than half the economy of the GCC, and we have, of course, the most influence. We're also the largest economy in the MENA region with 700 million people and tremendous opportunities to growth. So as the UK diversifies its investment destinations as well as its investment sources, as it looks at new trading partners, I think Saudi Arabia can be extremely pivotal in enabling this while achieving our own Vision 2030. Vision 2030 talks about the kingdom being at the crossroads of three continents and being a key interconnection, being a platform. So I would call on UK businesses to look at Saudi Arabia beyond our own significant size as an economy, but look at us as a launching pad. All of the enablers that have been called for by our UK partners will be delivered and more. They will be delivered and more. There is extreme, not only ambition, but extreme willpower and the fastest decision-making we have seen since the founding of this kingdom. And all of us, as ministers in our respective areas, are being put under a lot of pressure, and we have to meet deadlines and KPIs and escalate the kingdom in every category. You know, His Excellency Majid Al-Qasabi sleeps 3-4 hours at night only because he's asked, ease of doing business to, to leapfrog forward and make the kingdom one of the top 10 in terms of the planning horizon and how we integrate our plans. In my area, in terms of attracting FDI, working with Sagia and others, we're working to deliver in terms of creating partnerships with global companies. So all of these are going to happen, and they're going to happen very fast. But my last point is, look at the kingdom as your gateway to Africa. We just appointed a Minister of State looking at the kingdom's Africa strategy. So that is a signal, Peter. Africa is going to be accessible, and it's a difficult continent, but it's also a very promising. It's one of the many next frontiers. India is in our backyard, and I just visited India last week. So I like people to think that their strategies towards investing in India and investing in Saudi Arabia can also be looked at with sort of one light to make sure that we create those linkages and opportunities.
Fantastic, thank you. Do you have anything you want to add?
Again, I think in terms of the UK-Saudi Arabia relationships, it's historical, it's strong, it's existing already. Reciprocity and understanding among each other is in a very advanced stage. Many of our doctors are trained here, students, pilots, bankers, and British families live in Saudi Arabia for decades. And I know personally how many Saudis have interest in the United Kingdom market. So we're starting from a very strong base. I think the challenge is to do many quantum leaps and take this relationship into new levels with very specific opportunities, very specific projects, ideas, and this is the collective effort, hopefully, after signing up the agreement yesterday.
Fantastic, thank you. We've now got a few minutes for questions, one or two questions probably. So if anyone has a question, if you could put up your hand and I will hopefully see you. And yes, do you have a microphone? Right, the microphone's coming. If you could just tell us who you are and who you work for, please. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Vijay Takrar of a company called Paragon Agri. And Your Excellency mentioned Africa being another frontier. So because Saudi Arabia has got issues with the aquifers and you've got the best dairy industry in the world, I'm looking for partners who could come to Africa where we've got a very, very large piece of land on one of the largest lakes in the world to see if there's a partnership possibility for agriculture, because clearly food security is going to be a big issue and water security is also a big issue. So just wanted your response whether it is possible to do some joint ventures in Saudi Arabia.
Alice, could you understand?
Yeah, did you understand?
Can you just encapsulate what he said?
Yeah, I didn't entirely. Unfortunately, we all found it slightly difficult to hear. Could you very, very briefly just maybe just tell us in a few words, just repeat the key part of your question, just very briefly? With the microphone, because the microphone's not working very well, unfortunately. If you could keep it quite close to your mouth, thank you.
Okay.
Just very briefly.
Is that now clear? Can you understand? Can you hear me all right?
Sort of. Can you?
Well, the point is we have got a very large piece of agricultural land in Africa on a very big lake.
So it's about, basically it's about Africa and...
Africa and agriculture in Africa, and I'm looking for partnerships
The kingdom, so our state-owned company, we talked with the Indian government, country that we're investing in. So we're looking for countries also that not only are able to export foods, but have a well-balanced development opportunity for its own people. We don't want to import food from countries that are starving, for example. This will be very important. So I think Saudi investors, including SALIC and the private sector companies I mentioned, would be delighted to talk to you and others who may be willing to invest. The logistics part, a lot of food waste takes place, and you know this better.
With Saudi Aramco are in the tens of billions of dollars. It's a very significant economy in itself, and as I think a number of us have said on the panel, it's at the heart of a region which is very important to us all. The environment is there, the opportunities are clearer, and I would just encourage you to work with us and with our Saudi partners to understand the exact nature of those opportunities and to see if we can benefit, because I think it will benefit both our kingdoms in a very significant way.
Thank you very much indeed, and I just want to say thank you very much to all our panel. Thanks for coming today, and thanks for your excellent expositions. Thank you so much. Thank you.